been a little while since I've jumped on here. But there's good reason for that. I went through, as I think anybody who is on my Instagram or following my shorts has seen, went through quite the hypomanic stretch there for really about 4 or 5 days, 6 days. But really, what I want to talk about today was how I got out of that. And that was with my first experience with antipsychotics. The reason I want to share this is it gave me a lot of perspective. A lot of perspective. And it was good in that it had the intended effect, but it had some really wild side effects as well. So, if nothing else, when I shared on Instagram a few of those, I had a lot of people reach out saying basically the same thing that they had gone through, and it made me feel a lot less alone. So, if nothing else, if you've had the experience of having to take antipsychotics, I'm there with you. And for those who might be afraid to take antipsychotics, a little peace of mind, at least for me. A reminder that what works for me might not work for you. So, anyways, to get into it, so basically, this past summer when I was moving, my psychiatric APNP at the time prescribed me olanzapine, which is an antipsychotic, in order to help me slow my brain down, help me get a little bit of sleep, and just really, it was meant to keep me on track. Now, I'm very wary about adding new medications. It was the middle of summer, and one of the side effects was overheating and dehydration. And I worked 12 hours the day after I was going to take it, and I think it was probably a good thing I didn't take it. Now, after we moved, I went through that mixed episode where you can find a video about that and an article about that on my website, benefitsofbipolar.com. But most importantly, I really think after this experience, I really wish that I would have taken it then, because I think it might have helped surround kind of my moods from the depression and from the hypomania, and maybe would have evened it out. So another big fear of mine for a reason that I didn't want to take it is I was afraid that it would shoot me back into depression. Now, the ironic part about this, I did bring this fear up with my APNP before I moved, and of course, she told me correctly that it won't do that. It will just keep you in the middle. It's kind of meant to be a buffer on both ends for when you need it. Of course, I didn't believe her. And that brings me to this past week. So it was not this past Friday, but the Friday before that, so about 10 days ago. And I finally took my antipsychotic. I was really bouncing. My brain was really buzzing. I was actually sitting down on my chair downstairs watching a TV show with my girlfriend, and when it ended, I literally jumped up and down 3 times and was like, oh, no, what next? And she was like, it's 9:45 p.m. What's going on? So I finally decided that it was time to try this out. I had basically gone 5 days where I felt like I had taken a stimulant, and I went in to talk to my therapist. And here's, I guess, where maybe one of the most important points. I always thought that there had to be an emergency to take an extra medication, whatever, kind of all the same tropes that I didn't want to take another medication. I didn't want to admit I needed more help, yada, yada, yada. And she kind of looked at me and she goes, Lee, if it can help at all, don't you think you should take it? Or at least give it a chance? You don't work tomorrow. You don't have anything you have to do. What better time? So I guess I had to take a little bit of my own medicine, if you will. And I talked it through with my girlfriend, and didn't just make an impulsive decision to try this. And so I took it and on Friday night, and I kid you not, within a half hour, my energy levels went from 100 to like 3. I mean, it knocked me off my feet very quickly. So I kind of stayed up for an hour or two just to kind of see where things were, where my brain was, and I was just getting more and more tired. But also just like very low motivation, and which was good. I fell asleep. So I slept for 9 hours. I cannot tell you the last time I slept for 9 hours. So check, that worked. I will say though, the next day was brutal, just brutal. I woke up after 9 hours, maybe a little bit more, and didn't want to. Time disappeared. Like, actually, I mean, I went downstairs for what I thought was 20 minutes, and it was an hour and a half. That happens from time to time, but not that drastically. It was like I slowed down and time sped up. It was one of the weirdest phenomenons I've ever been through. I wouldn't have driven that day. I had my girlfriend drive everywhere, and just was really in slow motion all day long. So that's those are the downfalls. I mean, and I guess that brings me to the perspective point. Man, that gave me a lot of perspective on what having to take an antipsychotic every day or more often would be like. It gives me so much more respect. Not that I shouldn't have had it before. It's, and not that I'd never respect for them before, but even more for those who have to take it on a day-to-day basis, or have to get used to it, or like I said, use it even more often. I really don't know how they do it. So props. If you're taking it once a year, props. If you're using it more than that, props. Just props all the way around. If you are taking them, they're helping as intended, and you're getting through, the side effects, which were real. So, really just to kind of wrap it up here, it was those things. I'm glad I finally took it. I'm glad I was finally open to more possibilities and more skills. Another tool in my kit, if you will. It's kind of how I described it. I'm glad that I have that. It's not something I'm going to want to use very often, but I will be able to use it if I need to. And the perspective that I just talked about, being able to understand more what other people are talking about, especially wanting to go into clinical mental health. I'll have one more perspective, so I guess that's a positive out of a situation, but I got to look at it as a positive as a whole. It was a wild ride. I mean, it's 10 days later, I think, since I took it, and this is the first video I've made since then. I really wanted to see how it was going to affect me more than just immediately, more than just after that day. So, if you found any value in this, reach out, follow me on Instagram at benefits_of_bipolar. But yeah, reach out anytime. This is the stuff I love to talk about. And of course, share it out, like it, subscribe. I would love all of that and really, really appreciate it. So thank you, everybody, and we'll be back soon.